who always makes sure that our microphones work. Ken, we appreciate you, man. You've been here for many, many years, and you do a great job for us. Well, it's a banner day here at Phoebe Putney, and thank you for coming out on an intemperate day here to experience what I think is going to be a real game changer for our community, for Southwest Georgia, and certainly for medical care here in our area. I want to start off by acknowledging the fact that this facility was made possible through the incredible vision and skill of a great team of architects. Yielding, Wakeford, and McGee, along with Collins, Cooper, and Carusi, put together their combined local flavor for this historical district, as well as their knowledge of student housing. They met innumerable times with potential future occupants. I sat in on some of them. I will tell you, the expectations of students in this day and age is a lot different than when I went off to the University of Arkansas with a couple boxes and some of my belongings. The days of opening up your window to regulate the radiator by how much it is open or not is long gone. And to me, washing my clothes was always a trip to the laundromat with a bunch of quarters and maybe an opportunity to find a date for that night. But that's not what you're going to see when you come in here. And we're excited that it was designed by these very capable architects, and that it ultimately is going to be a combination of what the students say is what the current generation really wants, and it will stand the test of time. We are located in our great historic area here in Albany, and the facility in some ways takes on some of the original looks of the original Phoebe Putney, and Mac and you all have done a great job. It couldn't have turned out much better from the way it looks. Over the process of construction, I would approach from a lot of different angles, just trying to get a different look, and every look kind of has its own great feel to it. Landscaping's almost ready to be put in, so you'll see more of it. But when you get a chance, come to this part of the town and get another look at the activity as people start moving in June. Our contractors, the Pevacano Company, certainly have done an outstanding job. I saw Tony back there earlier, Stephen Dew, Pat Etheridge, John Wagner, Paul Rigsby. You know, our hats off to you guys. We put you on a tough schedule. You only had to fight a couple tornadoes and other natural disasters to kind of put things together, so God bless you for doing that. I'll also give a tip of the hat to our local city utilities, permitting, and other folks. You just don't throw up a building here without working with your local government, and they've been excellent for us to work through, even though a lot of it's happened during a period of time when their attention was really focused on more important things than just getting this building done. So thank you to all the folks from the city. There'll be a lot more thank yous here, but I'm going to get on with our invocation, and if I miss somebody, it's not unintentionally, and I'll hopefully catch up with you in just a minute. One of the pieces of the puzzle of our medical manpower strategy has been having key partnerships, and one of those key partnerships has been with the Medical College of Georgia. We became the first satellite campus of the Medical College of Georgia, and their mission and our mission were both served by that partnership. We've had a number of folks over the years who have been the local dean and corralled and guided these third and fourth year medical students. I'm going to bring to the podium the most current, and perhaps one that y'all may know the best, and that's Dr. Doug Patten, to give our invocation. Doug?
Thank you, Joel. Pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, we gathered here on a day that we might consider a little less than ideal. We're here in the rain. We're also reminded on a daily basis that there's trouble in this world, but yet we gather here today to celebrate the goodness that you've put in our hearts, in all of our hearts, the goodness to serve, the goodness to give generously from our own pockets, to provide a place to welcome strangers into this community, strangers who will be becoming the leaders in delivering not only health care, but improving the health of all that we serve throughout this region. This is the goodness that we celebrate today, and we appreciate the fact that you've provided this beautiful place for these coming healthcare leaders. We ask that you bless this day, but also bless the generations of people who will benefit from the educational opportunities that will be provided here. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Patten. There is a number of folks who are going to come and give their input on this great day. The first is Rick Darty, local businessman, and Rick is the chairman of our Phoebe Foundation. This project would not have happened. It would not have happened without philanthropy. Philanthropy is an incredible, important part of how not-for-profit hospitals raise capital for good projects. And Rick's going to tell you a little bit about how important philanthropy is. I might also say Dr. Iqbal Khan is here, and raise your hand. Very first donor to this project. Following Rick is Justin Strickland, who's the president of the Albany-Dougherty Economic Development Commission. And I will tell you that healthcare is very much part of the local economy. You are sitting really at the northern bookend to our downtown redevelopment. Young professionals will be living here, creating positive implications here in this neighborhood. And for you who are looking forward to getting in on the ground floor of some great real estate buys, look between here and downtown. I predict that you're going to see it fill in with a lot of good investment. Also, Kathryn Martin is coming from the Medical College of Georgia, and I will hold my remarks about our keynote speaker until his time. So, Rick.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to stand up here and talk to you about giving and about the role of giving in this community, especially this community. It seems to me it's got one of the biggest hearts I've ever seen, and it's just amazing how we keep on doing these big things. So if there's a big problem, there's an issue, Albany and Southwest Georgia rolls up its sleeves and gets it done. But what I want to talk to you about with philanthropy, to me, it's the part that's been really, really fun is having like a front row seat to watching a lot of diverse partners come together. And that would start with the Mellon Foundation, who put up some seed money, some big seed money to start with. And then it rolls from there into the hospital employees through Peach. Blew my mind when I saw how much they actually all came together and raised. It was astounding in our total $3.5 million plus giving. Then the companies, the corporate citizens in Albany and beyond, once again, when asked, answered the bell. And individuals through Keystone and Torch, we have a kind of a young society in Torch. I haven't been asked to belong to, and then Keystone, which I'm in the middle of, and we give at different levels and for different reasons, but really ultimately with the same reason to make this a better place and to make lives better and to make this economy better as well. So it's been really fun to watch that. And also having a front row seat to watching the incomparable Lauren Ray and her staff at the foundation. You just hold on to your hat and go for the ride. So I want to thank them. It's amazing what they can get done and what they do. All right, I want to talk a little bit about Justin and get him to come up here in just a moment, the next speaker. Justin Strickland is the president of the Albany-Dougherty Economic Development Commission. I've known Justin for a long time, and back mainly through church to start with, and for some other things. And he was a basketball coach for us, and a bunch of other things like that. So I've known him in a lot of different ways, and always knew that he was like one of the words I would use. The main word I'd use is solid for Justin. And so when I heard that he was considering going through what he was doing and ultimately coming to this role, I felt that Albany had some solid leadership for a long time, and I was really glad to see him step up to the plate and to lead us. So Justin, please.
It's not too often you sit in front of a room of people staring at you and other people are talking about you, but thank you, Rick. I appreciate the kind words. I wanted to tell you today that I've got a problem. I realized this the other night, standing in front of the bathroom mirror, and I think a lot of you have that problem too. And even the state of Georgia, you look on your driver's license, they call it a restriction. But that problem is I have poor eyesight. And I realized that when I took my contacts out and I couldn't find my glasses in the bathroom mirror. And I correlated that to today, where we've got a great hospital system and leaders who put on the right kind of glasses and use the best vision possible to see down the road and to know that we need projects like Flaggstone to support Albany and to support our healthcare community. So thank you, Joel. Thank you, Phoebe. Everybody, for what you've done. To be able to see forward and see down the road is the kind of vision that we need. I'm proud to be a part of that. We're good in Albany at making things. We're good at making crop dusters, with Thrush aircraft that fly all over the world to help farmers grow crops. We're good at Procter & Gamble, making paper that we use every day. We won't delve too far into that. We're good at Coats & Clark at making yarn that's used to knit family heirlooms that are passed down for generations. We're good at Miller at using the best water anywhere to make beer and other beverages that are enjoyed and exported all over the world. We're good at making things. We're good here in Albany too about making people better, and that's what Phoebe does. You know, I used to wear a bow tie a lot more often. I don't anymore when I started working at the Economic Development Commission because people confused me with an economist. I'm not an economist. I did pull two numbers I wanted to share with you today to show you why healthcare is so important to our region. 16,672 people work in our region every day in healthcare. That's 12.7% of employment. That's the biggest industry in Southwest Georgia, healthcare. So don't take for granted what we have here at Phoebe and in Albany. We have one of the best healthcare systems in the world, and I'm proud today to help cut the ribbon for Flaggstone and the development that it represents and the impact that it will have in Albany, and specifically here in downtown Albany. So thank you.
So the price of admission for me to say the prayer was that I would get to introduce my boss, Dr. Kathryn Martin. And I had the opportunity to meet Kathryn when we first started the development of this campus, when Dr. Kahn was here as his first dean, and Kathryn started coming over to help support the development of this campus, but also to figure out what we were doing to be able to develop the Southeast campus, which was the Medical College of Georgia's second regional campus to develop. And Kathryn is, as is so often the case, when somebody's really good at what they do, they keep getting asked to do more. And so she ultimately has gained responsibility for all of the regional campuses all across the state that the Medical College of Georgia is now developed here northwest up in Rome, the Southeast campus in Brunswick and Savannah, but also the partnership campus in Athens at the University of Georgia. Kathryn is passionate about providing the best possible experience for the students, but she also wants to make sure that the preceptors in the affiliate hospitals also can derive benefit from this educational experience. And the only thing that she might be more passionate about than that is making sure that we're addressing and seeking every opportunity to improve public health initiatives in the regions where we serve. So that's one of the key reasons that it was easy for me to accept this position, to come back and work with her, because I think what we both want to see is not only graduating great medical students, partnering with the pharmacy school to graduate great pharmacists, but also to be able to demonstrably prove that what we're doing here is making a difference in the way that people live. So Kathryn, thank you for being here, and thank you for your work.
You'll see an increase in your pay come July. Thank you, and thank you for having me here. It's a sincere honor to bring you greetings today from our Dean, Dr. David Hess, and from our faculty. Phoebe and Albany have been home to many medical students throughout the years, decades actually, but now they can truly call Phoebe home. MCG and Phoebe have been longstanding partners in healthcare as well as in education. And for many of you here, you have helped us along the way on our journey. The SWEA AHEC, the Southwest Georgia Area Health Education Centers, has been and continues to be the strongest health education support agency in Georgia, encouraging middle school and high school students to consider healthcare careers and supporting students training in all facets of healthcare. And the Southwest Georgia campus, as Joel mentioned, was the first regional campus for Georgia's only public medical school and for Georgia's only public school of pharmacy. These decisions were monumental in our histories for our respective schools because we knew the capacity of Phoebe's reach across Southwest Georgia. We know its mission, as coupled with ours, is to serve the communities and have a strong commitment to patient quality care. And this decision has paid off in spades for us because we measure our success by the success of our students. How do we know that students are successful? Medical students take the same shelf test or national test as every other medical student in the country. So that means an A is an A, whether you are an MCG graduate or a Harvard graduate. Just last year, one of our students from the Southwest Georgia campus earned the highest score in surgery for that year. So why are our students successful? Two reasons. Because this is good soil. The community here and the communities that are surrounding Phoebe are rich with opportunity for learning and for service. We see students come back to Augusta having been here in Albany, and they are much wiser, they're more pronounced, they're more confident in what they do, because like roots, they are encouraged, they're nurtured, they're watered, and they're fed so that they can stretch and they can grow. And secondly, it's because you take care of them. Your physicians here teach them one-to-one in their private practices without remuneration, that's without pay, because they want to give back to their disciplines. Students can then see genuine compassion and care for patients because the doctor's patients are also his neighbors, his child's teacher, or the person who sits in front of him in church. Students are considered young physicians in training because that's who they are. And if it's hard for you to think about who's a physician and who's a student, I had that same problem too. But you can tell the difference quickly because the students wear short coats, short white coats, the doctors wear long white coats. So you might be asking yourself, what can I do to help to continue this so that medical students are successful here at Phoebe? Many of you have already answered that call by giving generously to make this dream come true. But I also have 3 other suggestions. One is if your doctor is a teaching doctor, especially for MCG, thank them. They open their doors for service to their discipline and to give to the next generation of doctors. And if you see a student in the community, if you see them in the hospital or in your doctor's office, encourage them. Ask them about themselves or their families and their journey, because sometimes just a bright smile or a warm handshake is all they need to make their day. And I promise you, they'll remember you. And third, speaking to you, parent to parent, I ask you to treat them as if they were your own. We are entrusting you with our children, our medical students, to take care of them. So training here in Albany stimulates their thoughts and their ideas, fortifies their skills, and strengthens their resolve to practice medicine. In sum, it is the preview of life's coming attractions. Thank you.
Somebody once asked me, how far is it to Augusta from Albany. And I said, you can't get there from here. I mean, if you've driven from Southwest Georgia to Augusta, it's a long way. I mention that to you because Kathryn is just one piece of a great team. The leadership of the Medical College of Georgia, the dean of the medical school, the president of Augusta University, they come to Albany on a regular basis to check in. It'd be very easy for them just to say, well, Kathryn, let us know every so often what's going on down there, or to have Doug send a few emails from time to time. They're heavily invested. They were here recently for a little ceremony that was done here. They see this probably as the crown in their taking the Medical College of Georgia's vision and mission to help the citizens of this state very much so. I tell people that 15, 20 years ago, the most frequent call I got at home was my wife or my friend or my brother or my grandmother. They're having surgery next week. Can you make sure they get a private room? Some of y'all in this room have made that call. But I'm not encouraging that. But you know the most frequent call I get now? My physician's retired. I can't find a physician. That's a frequent occurrence. And that's after we have more than doubled the number of physicians practicing here in Albany, Georgia over the last 15 or 20 years. Now, I've told people when they fill out the forms, are we an academic medical center? Are we a community hospital? Are we a suburban hospital? Are we a rural hospital? And they don't have a box for all of the above. Because in a way, we are all of the above. And over 50% of the people who spend a night in our hospitals here in Albany live outside of Dougherty County. When a hospital in Calhoun County closes, who becomes their hospital? Phoebe Putney does. And so we're quite frankly the largest rural hospital in the state of Georgia, very much carrying on both an urban, a suburban, and a rural mission. Our speaker here today is a state senator who covers 8 counties. Now we all know Georgia's got a lot of counties. And when you get up north, of course, the people are packed together pretty close. Here in Southwest Georgia, we're a lot more spread out. So covering the needs of 8 rural counties here in Southwest Georgia is a big deal. Senator Dean Burke represents District 11. He also brings to the fact that he is a physician. And so the importance of his comments today are even that much more important. Beyond his comments, I will tell you he is an unending advocate for Southwest Georgia. He's certainly an unending advocate for his home community, but he's also an incredible advocate for health and health-related issues. People turn and look to physicians, and there are not that many in the General Assembly, for their expertise. And we're very fortunate that he's here on behalf of our host state, but certainly on behalf of those of us here in Southwest Georgia. He's the chairman of the Ethics Committee. Somebody got their hand in the wrong cookie jar. Somehow he's probably going to be involved. He's the vice chairman of the Health and Human Service Committee, and he's a member of the Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee. He also serves on the Appropriations Committee, where he chairs the Community Health Subcommittee, responsible for about 14% of the state's budget when it comes to health care. He's served for 5 years on the Bainbridge City Council. He's a former member of the Hospital Authority there, and he very much supports the Boy Scouts. Kind of hard to argue with that one. So you know where his heart is. You also need to know he's pretty doggone smart. Graduated summa cum laude from Georgia Southwestern. He went on to be a graduate of the Medical College of Georgia, and he received his obstetrical training at Mercer in Macon. He's practiced for 27 years. He's now out of active practice, but he's the chief medical officer for Memorial Hospital and Manor in Bainbridge. Senator Burke and his wife Thea have been married for 36 years. They have 2 children and 3 grandchildren, and they are members of the First United Methodist Church there in Bainbridge. Let's give Senator Dean Burke a very warm welcome.
Joel did a pretty good job reading what I sent him, which is always appreciated. I want to thank you guys for inviting me to be here today. It's spite of the weather. I think we're so behind on the rain in South Georgia. I'm not going to complain. We'll just say thank you, Jesus, that we're getting to wander around, and I'm glad we do have the sidewalks, so we don't need our mud boots. But you know, another interesting thing is in Atlanta, they think Albany's the end of the earth. You know, we're so far away from Atlanta. And I tell people, they ask me where I'm from, I say, well, go to the end of the earth, and then go 60 more miles, and then you'll be in Bainbridge. And so, you know, Joel alluded to the fact that the metro area, you know, some of my colleagues can walk their district, you know, in 2 or 3 blocks. And I've got 8 counties. You know, Congressman Bishop is, you know, got one of the largest congressional districts in Georgia, and so I know he knows what it's like to have to serve such a big geographical area. The good part about it is you can always say, I'm tied up. Because when you've got 8 counties to serve, people believe you. You know, well, I can't do that, I'm tied up today. So I may have told some of my secrets. Now, Joel is a thought leader, Joel Wernick, your CEO, and the people in Atlanta do respect the fact that he has built such a great healthcare system in southwest Georgia. And I think that you guys need to give him a round of applause for all the hard work and dedication that he's put into it. Now let's move on to Doug Patten. Now, I've been in the Senate for 5 years, and if I'm not mistaken, this is your 4th job since I've been in the Senate. Don Martin, I'm sorry. Somebody didn't screen very well. No, Doug is really a close friend of mine, and there aren't many people in this state who can sit down and talk about health care and the problems of health care for hours and hours and enjoy it. And Doug is one of those, and unfortunately I am too, so that's why we get along so well. I know some of the state legislators would be here. A great thing that the House of Representatives, and don't tell them I said anything great about the House of Representatives. There is always a little tension between the Georgia House and the Georgia Senate. But they have developed a rural initiative this year, and they have an aggressive meeting schedule and timeline, and I think today is the 2nd day of their first set of 2-day meetings, and they've got 8 or 10 meetings scheduled between now and the end of the year, one of which I found out yesterday or the day before is in Bainbridge. They didn't invite me, but they invited our hospital to present, so surprise, I'm going to be the presenter. Just don't tell Ed Reinders or Daryl Leland or any of those guys about that when I stand up. I want to surprise them. And of course, I want to thank the community leaders, the folks that have helped raise the money and put the resources together to build this remarkable building. I mean, it is truly an amazing thing, and I think the comment that Joel made about what I consider the older physicians like me, just to think that this would be your bedroom when I was in 3rd year medical school is just amazing. And so I think that it does show the commitment and what it means to us to have those students in our area. I doubt that they're living in that kind of arrangement even in Augusta. So again, back a long time ago when I was finding my way to Augusta, you know, we didn't have anything like that. Who does? I think I got Doug speechless. That's pretty remarkable. Joel mentioned the crisis in rural health care in Georgia, and it is indeed a crisis. I don't use that word lightly, even though a politician may tend to use all kinds of words lightly, but I hope to think I'm not a typical politician. I do think I've found my place in the world being a senator, not because I'm being a senator, but because in this particular time in this state, the amount of healthcare knowledge in the Senate when I got there was almost zero. We had one nurse and a pharmacist. There was nobody else there that knew anything about healthcare. as Joel mentioned, about 15% of the state budget is in relation to being spent on Medicaid and state health benefit plan and all the other areas, and that does account some of the other agencies, such as the Department of Public Health and DBHCD with mental health. So if you add everything together, healthcare is a very close second to education as far as the dollars spent. And obviously, you as taxpayers want that money to be spent wisely. But when you have a bunch of guys and girls in Atlanta, your representatives and your senators, and only a very small handful of them have any direct healthcare knowledge, it's very easy for them to make mistakes. And I like to think that that's why I was sent to Atlanta, was to help with that area. As Joel mentioned, you know, I've been in healthcare in South Georgia for 32 years. We have lost 9 hospitals in the last 5 years in rural Georgia. And as been previously mentioned, the hospitals are a driving economic engine in most of our small communities. It and the school system are far and away the largest employers. So when a county loses its community hospital, the only one in the system, frequently that community dies. I mean, think about it. If you ask an economic development expert, we've got one sitting up here, you know, what are the 3 things a company or one of these headhunter firms that come looks at communities to try to decide where a factory should go? They want to know about workforce, schools, and healthcare. Any one of those 3 legs in that stool, you're not going to get that business. And so it is critical that these communities keep some sort of healthcare system. And of course, you know, it's a God-given right that we should have access to health care, in my opinion. And so I think that for those reasons, health care and the economics of health care is I think, an extremely important issue. And again, it's my focus. I deal with the ethics committee. I do what I have to do on that. I do what I have to do on the ag committee. Obviously, ag is an economic engine in all of Georgia, but particularly Southwest Georgia, and those are extremely important. But healthcare is what gets my heart racing and my brain racing, much to the chagrin of my bride, who has to put up with that. Now, this past year, because of all the focus on healthcare, Lieutenant Governor Cagle, who was here last year, I think we were in this corner over here. I believe it looks so different with the building, but we had a groundbreaking. We dug some dirt. I was in the audience then. They were real smart and didn't let me talk. And our Lieutenant Governor understands the importance of healthcare and the needs of the rural areas in Southwest Georgia. So he's done 2 things since that groundbreaking. He, in first of the year, established a healthcare reform task force. Now, there are now 5 Senate members on that task force, and all of them have some healthcare knowledge, or in the case of Jack Hill, our appropriations chair, he writes all the checks, so he had to be on the committee. And those folks, we've met twice in public meetings and 2 or 3 in private meetings. And basically what we're doing is looking at Georgia's role in healthcare from top to bottom. You know, what do we need to do to just blow it up and start over? Now, are we going to be able to do that? Probably not. But if you don't have bold vision, then you're not going to accomplish anything. And so we're basically looking at Medicaid, state health benefit plan, the mental health delivery system in Georgia, and what do we need to do to make it better? You know, I think there's been a lot of controversy that we won't get into today about Medicaid expansion, but I can promise you that our governor, who I have a lot of respect for, just made the choice not to do that because I think he feels like the Medicaid system is broken. And it's like, why would you expand something that's not working very well anyway? And so I feel like it's my responsibility to give guidance on how Medicaid could serve my patients better, the ones that I still claim, because when I go to Walmart, people still come up to me and say, I wish you'd get back from Atlanta so you can come back to work. I say, I'm still working. They don't believe it. So anyway, that healthcare reform task force is extremely important. And we're taking it seriously. We're trying to get experts from other states that might have decided that there's a better thing that could be done with the Medicaid system in their state, seeing what outcomes are. I'm still a scientist at heart, and I want to see data, what's working, what's not working. The second thing that he did since we cut the ribbon, Lieutenant Governor Cagle, was appointed another business-led task force that's called Healthcare 180. And it got that name from the fact that $180 million was established as a tax credit for 3 years for rural hospitals. And Kim and I were talking about that. Where's Kim? She's got a little hospital, I guess, east of here that she's trying to take care of. And the rural hospitals, if you donate to that tax credit, basically what you're doing is instead of sending money to Atlanta for guys like me to decide how to spend it, you can send that money to your rural hospital and let them spend it in ways that will help them, and you're skipping the middleman. We did some improvements to that bill this year. It's a 90% tax credit, $60 million eligible. Kim's hospital could get up to $4 million. What could you do with $4 million? A lot. So I do encourage those of you in the business community and those of you that are still paying taxes to the state of Georgia, in spite of all of the philanthropy you're already doing, to take advantage of that. Even if your taxes are only $1,000, that goes a long way towards helping. Now the next part of what I want to talk about is not quite as happy or a positive thing. But if we don't recognize our problems, we're not going to be able to do anything about them. And Georgia's health outcomes, how we do health-wise, is judged by the Pew Foundation, which has been doing this for a long time. We're 49th out of 50. We're next to the bottom in our healthcare outcomes in Georgia. And you might say, how can we do that when we've got facilities like this and physicians? I see a couple of the old guys in the back with their long white coats, some of which I recognize. They're working their butts off to try to help people. But there's just so many cultural issues that we deal with in Georgia. We like our Coca-Cola, and we like our fried chicken, and we like our pound cake. I could go on and on. We still like our cigarettes, and we like our Miller beer. Okay? And some of those things, when we do it in excess, cause some health problems. And we've got to figure out solutions that we've never been able to do before. Because if we're putting the billions of dollars into our healthcare system and we're still 49th, then something's wrong. I mean, does that add up to you? I think it might be a coincidence that we spend 49th out of 50 on Medicaid per capita. I mean, even though we spend a lot of money on Medicaid, when you add up, and we're not expanded, but the number of people on Medicaid in Georgia, when you say how much we spend per head, we're still 49th in the country on what we spend. And again, I don't want to spend more if it's not going to have better outcomes. I mean, that's ridiculous. But we've got to figure out a way to improve the health outcomes of the folks that are living in these smaller counties, some of which, when you look at county rankings, some of the counties in southwest Georgia are some of the worst healthcare outcomes in the country. And that aggravates me. I almost said a bad word. I'm sorry. Oh, we all get passionate about this. So what the Healthcare 180 Task Force, that group of businessmen, besides trying to promote the tax credit, the other charge that Lieutenant Governor and I have given them is to help us, because they're the ones paying the bills. The businesses in this country with their health insurance costs. Those of you that are in your own business, you know what your health insurance costs, and it's ridiculous. What can we do to make that better? And so we're trying to come up with a innovation center for rural Georgia that would actually utilize the expertise of the Medical College of Georgia, utilize our experts at the University of Georgia State. I mean, Georgia is so blessed with educational facilities, Georgia Tech, and you wouldn't think, that bunch of engineers, but they've got a healthcare group up there that's second to none, that's studying these issues and trying to figure out solutions. unfortunately right now they're all working in silos. And I think that if we can get everybody together and focus on what we need to do to improve things, we'll get much, much better outcomes. So I'm very optimistic. I think we can solve this problem. But it's going to take hard work. And my charge to you would be to make sure as you talk to your legislators, number one, if you don't know who they are, then shame on you. If you do know who they are, but you don't have their cell phone number, then get to work. And also start talking to them about the fact that we need to make some better decisions about how health care is dealt with in our state. And they are not going to get motivated until they hear from you. And the more they hear from you, the more you tell them this is important, not for me, but for my children, for my grandchildren. I want my children and grandchildren to be able to get good jobs, good health care in Southwest Georgia and not have to move to damn Buckhead for that, okay? That just bothers me. And I think that we've got that opportunity, but it's not going to happen without the grassroots saying this is important. The fact that you guys are here today, you know, that in and of itself tells you care. But please, you know, pick this cause as something that you're going to raise your flag for, and don't just wait for the next newspaper or healthcare article, that sort of thing to get involved. There's a lot to be done. But I know with people like you and leaders like Joel and Kathryn and Doug, you know, we can do this. We really can. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for your patience.
All right, just about done. As you can tell, we know in the state of Georgia the politics of 30 years ago have changed. Rural Georgia used to have a much bigger say in what went on at the state capitol. Now they say if you don't live above I-20, your voice might not be heard. So we got to elect some really smart, capable people. What do you think? Dean, we're glad you're up there representing our corner of the state, and thank you. I would also thank our other delegation who stays right on top of healthcare issues here, and I assure you know all the things, and we're fortunate that our delegation works very much as a team and works for all of our best interests. I appreciate the words of praise, but I will remind all of us that, you know, all of us is better than some of us. And what you see here is a product of all of us is better than some of us, and I can look throughout the audience and see that. First of all, we have some hospital board and authority members here. Y'all stand up so everybody can see you, because I want to say something just about you. There's a few here. It was mentioned by Justin about eyesight. I coined a view of the world a long time ago that says vision is really the ability to see what cannot be seen. It's a different kind of vision. But indeed, our board and the board members before them, going all the way back to Judge Putney's original philanthropic gift. Indeed, everything you see just a couple blocks away was where the original Phoebe Putney was, and it was there because a group of concerned local citizens, mainly women, wanted a better quality of life, and they approached him, and he agreed to give a large sum of money to help start the hospital. But they didn't want it to be just any old hospital, and if you read the headlines from back then, Phoebe Putney was equipped as good as you would have found in New York City at the time. Recall the story. There are 3 requests that Judge Putney had. You know, one was, let's build this hospital out of bricks and make it something the community is proud of, and make sure it doesn't catch on fire. Back in those days, fire and wood structures didn't go hand in hand, so it was a source of pride. And I think to this day, all of our facilities try to evoke confidence and pride. Second request was, name it for my mother. Now, Judge Putney and his family were from Massachusetts. And as you recall, folks that came to the South after the Civil War may or may not have been as openly welcomed as the people we welcome today. But Judge Putney was a very benevolent carpetbagger, as they call him, and he wanted the facility to be named for his mother. A person that has a soft spot for his mother can't be all bad, and he certainly was very progressive. But his last request, and one that these board members and hospital authority members pretty much clutch to their breast every time that they make decisions and try to see the vision for the future, and that's to be here for all in need. It's a strong and very big request. You go a lot of places in this country, and access to health care is not what you find here. You know, if you got all the money in the world, you can get access to health care wherever you want it. If you're of modest or no means, where do you turn? So we're here for the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor. And our goal is to be here to have physicians for them. So that philanthropic energy kind of set us on our way, and we've been able to continue to go down that road, having an uninterrupted mission for over 110 years. A couple last comments. I've seen a number of elected officials come here. If y'all will, if you're one of our local elected officials, please stand up so we can recognize your hard work. Once again, we have a democracy that is run on representation through electing our leaders. And I gotta tell you, not many places have one natural disaster, let alone two natural disasters side by side. And our neighborhood was probably hit as hard as any. As hard as any. And these majestic oak trees, they're a little scraggle here and there, and a few of them are cut down, but they're pretty doggone strong, and I think our community is strong right along with it. So we're excited that we have the kind of leadership in this town that grasp onto an issue. Good leaders are always going to be criticized because people don't always have the facts, but I think if you walk around and see what's happened here, and as I said earlier, they've been an excellent partner on this particular project. How many of y'all have not been inside yet? Most of you. All right, I'm going to tell you the wow factor. Now, there's going to be some free food in there. The tour's free. But I'm going to tell you what's not free. What's not free is you're not going to be able to walk away without telling at least one or two other people what you saw. What you're going to see is an environment that was designed to capture the imagination and the excitement of young professionals who are coming down here having to have their third and fourth year clinical rotations, pharmacy residents, and in some cases our family medicine residents. And while I'm talking about our family medicine residency, it was the very first piece of the puzzle. And I always liked when I was a kid, was lining up those dominoes. You know, I used to go like that, and y'all know what I'm talking about. Anyways, the first domino we knocked over was the family medicine residency. I see Becky and George here. What's the date of our welcome?
The 15th.
The 15th. Put that on your calendar. This community, the Chamber of Commerce, others do a great job welcoming our new residents here. Phoebe Putney has probably one of the highest retention rates for residents living in this area as anywhere you're going to find. And that's another key piece of this puzzle. So our family residency will welcome those new people. And that's an important piece of our puzzle. I see some of the local contractors, and while it may be difficult for me to call on all of them, I see the folks from Turner's. I saw Chuck Knight over here doing something with refrigerators. We try to keep us every nickel that we could in town for this building. There's some things you can't buy here, and we had to get them somewhere else. But we use local people to get them. So this project was very much an injection into the economic development of that. And it's going to be one that you also need to know that this whole block has been acquired by Phoebe Putney. And the problems of success is oftentimes when you can't find a place to park. You know, they say you might not want to eat in front of a place that doesn't have very many cars in the parking lot. Our goal is that we may have to start on building 2 and then building 3 before long. And we've master planned for that. So see this as a very much important part of this neighborhood. We're excited that the rails to trails that our community leaders are working so hard are going to come right by here. And our goal, and I heard this when they came on a big bus tour, and Dr. Martin remembers this, they had about 6 buses of medical students came through here. And while some of us got up and said some nice things about Albany, the number one thing that really got all the students that were visiting who had never been to Albany, didn't know where Albany was, as the students one by one got up and said, "You're not going to believe what I got to do last week, or the procedure that I got to participate in." That's the difference of just having a clinical rotation versus having one that actually excites you and carries you to the next level of your medical care. And that's what folks in here are going to be about. So get you a free piece of cake, get you a free tour, but pledge that you're going to go out and see and tell other people about what you saw here today. Where's Larry Hockman? That's not Larry. Larry's in the back. Larry kind of championed this program and a lot of different things. Rick's picked up the pieces along the way. Larry, the tip of the hat to you for you and your leadership. But the campaign's not over. So if you just got a check burning a hole in your pocket, or an extra $1, and nobody's going to pass the hat up and down the row, but if you do feel inclined or know somebody else that's looking for a good cause, this is the gift that keeps on giving. And you're going to see it when you get in there. With that, I'll conclude my remarks and tell you, this is why Albany is a place that thousands live and millions wish they could.
Got one more coming in there. Hang tight. Get in there. All right, whenever y'all are ready, you can do it on 3. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah.